he's going to give us a national perspective on ranked choice voting.
Hey, thanks a lot, Greg. All right, let's hear it one more time for Greg and Danielle for getting us fired up this morning. All right, and let's hear it for Massachusetts for getting all this stuff going here back in 2017, 2016, carrying it all the way forward to 2022, and carrying it forward until we get the job done. So thanks so much. All right, so we're ranked a vote. This is we're been fortunate, thanks to the support of many people in this room. A round of applause where we've been able to hire some folks to dedicate their lives, at least in this stage of their lives, to working on ranked choice voting. And so could some of the folks here, we got some of them with us today. Sean and David, could you stand up, please? So I
can't stand, but
all right, so I'm really glad Sean and David are with us today. Kaz Hernandez is in Austin, Texas, so he couldn't be with us today, but he's with us in spirit. And Monica Burke, our organizing director, and Celia Nolan, who folks may know from Voter Choice Massachusetts, they are at the National League of Women Voters Conference right now doing great work there. Otherwise, they'd be here with us. So I also want to recognize our board, which a great board is Billy Jackson here today. All right, Billy, Danielle Ellen. Billy's one of the co-founders of Rank the Vote. You know, it's his energy that did so much during the preparation for Yes on 2 and 350 coffees, and you know, so and now he's leading us forward. Danielle, I'll just recognize her again and thank her for joining our board. You know, when Danielle Ellen and Katie Fahey, do folks know Katie Fahey from Michigan? She, fair districting in Michigan, she ended gerrymandering in Michigan, so big round of applause. So they joined our board in the last 6 months, and we just are so honored to have them working with us that they really leveled up our team, and so very excited about that. Susie Friedman, are you here today? No. Okay, Susie's not with us. She's doing great. I just saw her the other day, but she did just recently have a major surgery. But Susie has been with us from before we founded Rank the Vote, and you can see the rest of our board here. A bunch of great folks. Okay, so as you can imagine, our mission is to make ranked choice voting the definitive method, not yes in Massachusetts and throughout the U.S. Folks know, you know, we got ranked choice voting now enacted or adopted in 29 U.S. states. So that's more than half, so congratulations on that. As Danielle was saying, it's red states and blue states. It's not just a Democratic thing or a Republican thing or an independent thing. So we're trying, now the movement for ranked choice voting, you know, Massachusetts was one of the early states to get fired up about it, but good news. There's groups all across the country. So the blue and the purple, the green states are the Maine and Alaska, which let's hear it for Maine. Alaska's, you know, getting their first taste this summer, which is exciting, of statewide elections. And but you can see what this is showing in the purple and the blue is these are states that have active movements for ranked choice voting in their state, active organizations of volunteers like yourself doing amazing things. And a few years ago, this would have been a lot more gray and a lot less blue and purple. But today, it's a lot of blue and purple and very little gray. And I think that bodes really well for our future. Rank the Vote has helped co-found over 20 state organizations, and we did it using the playbook you folks here developed in Massachusetts. We just shared it with people in other states, encouraged them to get together, told them they could do it, and now they're off doing it, and we're working with them. And then there's these purple states, which are just these other amazing organizations working on ranked choice voting, including leaders like Fair Vote Minnesota and Jean Massey in Minnesota, or Lisa Errold, who spent some time with VCMA visiting a few years ago, leading a great effort in Washington, and just many others there. All right, so these are the different, distinct, unique personalities of the state groups we work with. So we're doing with them the same thing that we did in Massachusetts. We're growing capacity in terms of people. We're having them grow their volunteers and supporter list. And that way, building the number of people in the state who are excited about ranked choice voting and educating their friends, neighbors, and even strangers about ranked choice voting. They're raising grassroots money, and as they get bigger, they're starting to get endorsements, working their way up from their local Democratic and Republican committees, their state reps, their town officials, and on up to Congress, hopefully eventually Congress people and senators and whatnot. So we're building the same kind of volunteer structure we had in Massachusetts, and we're working now to augment that volunteer structure like we did in Massachusetts with paid staff in states across the US. That's a big thing we're doing now to help give the volunteers some support. Folks might know who are involved in VCMA what a boost it was when we first making our first hires in Massachusetts. Afia Fernstein and Shauna Hamilton and Kobe and many others. So yeah, let's hear it for those folks who really helped us grow Massachusetts. So these are some numbers here. You got all this inspirational stuff. So I'm going to be the numbers guy, but the numbers are pretty inspirational. So our state partners grew their supporters by 280% in 1 year during the pandemic with their hands tied behind their back. They grew their volunteers 250% over the year in 2021. These are really good growth rates. When you start with a group of people and you grow at 200 or 300% a year, that bodes really well for your movement. So we're working with them to try to sustain those rates like we did in Massachusetts, which allowed us to run Yes on 2. And then fundraising, they've raised like $350,000 now, our state partners, and that grew almost 400% last year. So this is where we're at now, and honestly, Massachusetts of that 113 is 70. So we're really working to level up everybody else, but let's hear it for you folks. This is a theme you're going to hear in a few of these slides, which is Massachusetts is a major leader. You are inspiring others. It is so important that you didn't sit back down after 2020 and not getting quite where you wanted to be, and you're back at it again, and that's going to be so important for the country, so thank you. We got almost 8,000 volunteers across the country, which is a big number. It'll be bigger in a few years. Over 250 volunteer leaders who give lots of their time. And you can see these other numbers here as well. So rank the vote nationally, and thank you to those here in this room that helped make this happen. We've raised over $1 million to do our work, and we're building up a little bit of a war chest now so that we can go up and help these state groups hire organizers, so that hopefully next time we talk next year, it's Massachusetts is still going to be rocking it, but there's going to be a bunch of states that are like, nipping at Massachusetts' heels to have the friendly title of leader or whatnot. So we'll see how that goes. So I mentioned we're hiring folks right now nationally. We depend on contributions at all levels, and we're seeking to get to a budget from about $500,000 budget a year now to a $3 million budget. So if you know anyone in your networks that really wants to support ranked choice voting across the country, we know exactly how we can help them use that money to improve our democracy and do it fast. But we're not alone. All the national organizations that helped us in Massachusetts, now we're working together with them nationally, and it's a really exciting time. These organizations have also grown and done amazing things, like win ranked choice voting in Alaska, like help a bunch of cities and towns win it. There's support for ranked choice voting, whether you're talking about groups like Democracy Rising that are an organization that is established that specializes in voter education, or the Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center that specializes in educating election administrators. 4 years ago, these things weren't around in this scale. So it's like the best time to be working on ranked choice voting as far as that goes. Fair Vote is still doing amazing work in a number of fronts. This year, they're going to be focused on expanding ranked choice voting in presidential primaries, because that's just an amazing way for educating people at scale. And they're also committed to working with groups like Massachusetts and these other state groups that we're working with to grow municipal implementations, and we'll talk about that more in a minute. Unite America is funding all kinds of great election reform work. Represent Us is doing great work. Represent Women has produced some amazing research and messaging information about how ranked choice voting and other structural reforms can help us get to parity in terms of gender representation and gender leadership in our government, which is important for so many things. And groups like More Equitable Democracy, making sure all communities, people of all backgrounds are getting to participate fully in our democracy, and we're doing the structural reforms to make that happen. So big national group. As far as strategy for implementing ranked choice voting, I think you see a lot of the mirror of what Greg and Danielle talked about in Massachusetts. It's kind of happening nationally. So there's this pyramid. Our ultimate goal is national enactment of ranked choice voting. That's what we all want to get to. Use it for all our elections. To get there, there's a bunch of different things that can happen, and what's exciting is there's national organizations now attacking all levels of this pyramid of things that need to happen to win ranked choice voting. So Rank the Vote, we specialize working with state groups like Massachusetts on growing volunteers, growing supporters, and then helping people organize on municipal wins like VCMA is doing. Fair Vote helps give advice to state organizations and helps fund and provide legal and policy support for statewide and national enabling legislation. Now, thanks to the, Voter Choice Massachusetts did some promotion this year of the Protect Our Democracy Act, which passed through the House of Representatives and was one of the first major bills to pass a chamber of Congress that specifically had ranked choice voting legislation in it, which was $40 million for state and local implementations. So that was a big achievement. It didn't pass the Senate yet, the president didn't sign it, but give yourself a round of applause. That is a huge step forward. I mean, just about I think every Democrat in the House of Reps voted for that, and that wouldn't have happened without Massachusetts. That wouldn't have happened without 6 reps from Massachusetts being there. That wouldn't have happened without Dean Phillips from Minnesota and all the other folks who have had a lot of contact with advocates like you and have become true believers because of it. So state enactments, Maine, Alaska, there's going to be a ballot measure in Nevada. We're hoping for one in Missouri. It's not clear if that's going to happen. There will be more in 2024. We know how powerful those are for showing people that ranked choice voting can scale to our most important elections. So groups like Unite America, Institute for Political Innovation, Article 4 are working on those. And Fair Vote is ramped up and is going to continue ramping up, educating congressional staffs and lobbying congressional members around the Fair Representation Act, which is really the most complete, thorough ranked choice voting implementation that addresses all the issues that we care about for congressional and Senate elections. And I think this is one of the reasons why we're doing, so we're kind of working at all these levels. A couple of years ago when we were starting in Massachusetts, if we talked about passing the Fair Rep Act, it was kind of a pipe dream. And even now, it's not going to pass tomorrow. But the reality is, it's as easy to pass once folks are educated, once there's a movement for it. They almost passed, the Voting Act through Congress this year. Help me out, somebody. The Freedom to Vote Act, right? Came like 1 or 2 votes away. We could get there, a place like that, with the Fair Rep Act, but we'll only get there with 40 or 50 states all pushing, all urging their Congress folks. And just like they voted for ranked choice legislation in Congress, especially as our problems, unfortunately, continue to mount and more people see this solution, that could be a real possibility. Another thing I'll say about the Fair Rep Act, which is really a credit to our partners, is there is much more mind share, thanks to the Common Purpose report that Danielle and the Academy for Arts and Science put out, thanks to the advocacy of Fair Vote, thanks to New America, thanks to others. There's much more mind share amongst these national partners, whereas before, not everyone was on board with the Fair Representation Act. There's now almost unanimity amongst election reformers, and that unanimity is spreading beyond. I was listening to a podcast on my way in, which featured the guy from the Trump administration who wrote that letter very early on saying, "This guy's nuts. You guys got to stop him." And he was actually a Homeland Defense, chief of staff or something. So at the end of his talk, he was saying, "One thing that gives me hope is the movement for really meaningful structural election reforms, including ranked choice voting." It kind of blew my. That's how we're getting to mainstream this stuff. So I'll move a little quicker. We're trying to win 500 municipalities by the end of 2025. You think we can do that? the active municipal initiatives across the country, you'll see Massachusetts is more than well represented in that middle column there, but you're not alone. You got other people looking to do it too. Kalamazoo, baby. And then there's some other great things going on as well. You know, there's a few, so how are we gonna get to 500? There's 44 active now. Maine, Virginia, Utah, Colorado, Maryland. These are 5 states that have really great, they've either passed RCV local municipal enactment bills, or they just got a good legal environment for it. So we think we can run up the count there. And with that, I think I've taken enough time, but I'll be around. Thanks, Massachusetts, for making things happen, and you've launched something national.